Yo, what up? It's Arcade Future, and today I'm going to be talking about Doom 2016. I just completed the game on Nightmare, and I want to tell you if the game is good, should you play it in 2025, and is it better than Doom Eternal? So stick around, I'm going to answer both of those questions. Starting with the first question, should you play Doom 2016 in 2025? The answer is yes. This game was a blast. It was incredible. It's in a weird way like very well made. Like it's so well made because there's no excess here. There's nothing here in this game that doesn't need to be here. The game isn't that long. The boss fights are not too difficult or overwhelming, and the gameplay just works almost perfectly. The pacing is like masterfully crafted, and this was just a game that I had a ton of fun with, and I kind of want to talk about it and share why you might enjoy it, and also just kind of compare this game to Doom Eternal and kind of just think about how this game made me feel in comparison. Now, when Doom Eternal came out and I completed that game, on Nightmare as well, I kind of felt like that game was just more sort of exhilarating because it was high speed. The music I think was a little bit more intense, or at least faster paced, and then there was just a lot more options and movement and guns and things like that. And playing through that campaign and uncovering things probably was more of a rush, right? Whereas this game is a little bit more slower, it's a little tighter, and I think it's also a little bit more difficult. You could check out the other video on my channel where I talk about Doom 2016 being more difficult than Doom Eternal, right? Some people will agree. One of the things I mentioned in that video was that more buttons doesn't necessarily mean more difficult. And while Doom Eternal has more buttons, I felt like Doom 2016 has like more cheapness, right? There are cheaper ways to get axed in this game, right? So I think this game is great, especially for people who love the Doom franchise and love what it represents symbolically. So Doom 2016 is a great game to get into in 2025. And if you're a gamer that kind of just wants something that's very simple, linear, clear cut, A to B, and you can kind of practice your FPS skills, you're not going to find very many games better than Doom 2016. I mean, this game is so linear and the combat is so tight, but it's also so challenging as well that it's like an adult game, right? Like it's like so simple and so to the point and so challenging and so rewarding that it's like you're not going to find many games that top this in the FPS department. So I compare this, like, to me, these games are kind of in the same wheelhouse. Like, I feel like Ninja Gaiden is kind of like the action adventure game version of like the Doom sort of sentiment, really. I know they're totally different types of games, but I feel like Ninja Gaiden 2, for example, which I also finished and have a review for on my channel, like, it's basically like it's clear cut. It's just like, you're going to play this game. You need to be good at it. You need to learn the base mechanics of the game, and you get rewarded for doing well. And I like simple games like that, right? So let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay is linear. You're slaying demons basically nonstop. The gameplay is not necessarily groundbreaking, but it's sort of, like I said, fine tunes the multi weapon swapping of the old retro FPS games, right? Because like nowadays, most FPS games only let you have 2 guns, 3 guns at the most, maybe a primary, secondary, and then your hip gun, right? Like your pistol or something like that. This game lets you have like 8 guns or like 10 guns or something like that, and you have your BFG, which is like your huge, you know, you know, demon slayer. It's just incredible, right? So the gameplay is good. Like I said, it's tight. There's definitely a power fantasy there. Like, I felt like every time you unlock something, or you press right thumbstick in to activate something or open a door or use a key, and you see your character's hands, you see the Doomslayer's hands, and they'll get electrified, or they'll turn it on, they'll get like flamed, and like it's just epic and intense, right? So the power fantasy's there. I could imagine, like, when I'm walking or when I'm doing something else in real life, like, I think back about some of those animations and how sick they were for Doom 2016. Just like when you're powering up and when you see your character interacting with the world, it really makes you feel like you're a hero that has to slay these demons, right? And that's the cool thing about Doom 2016 is, like, it's so simple. Like, kill the demons. Like, you're a good guy, but you're fighting like mindless evil, right? The buffs and power ups, right? So this is like kind of getting into the combat, but like that was one thing that Doom Eternal didn't really have, if I can recall. Like the power-ups and buffs in this game, like you can like, there'll be like an orb, right, in each arena fight that you get into to fight all these enemies, and you'll fight waves and waves of enemies, and there'll be like some sort of like red or purple or yellow orb that'll give you certain abilities, right? One orb will get you speed, one orb will let you go get you like 4x damage boost, one will give you berserk, and berserk is like one of my favorites. It basically means you drop the guns, and if you just press right trigger to shoot, you basically attack the demon and like rip off its arm, or like it's an instant kill, right? But you're using your bare hands, and that is so sick. It is not in Doom Eternal. I know it can't be, because I know I would have remembered that. That's like one of my favorite parts about Doom 2016, is that you have like under a timer, you have basically instant kill on any enemies that you see, and you're just running through, ripping and tearing literally all the demons apart. That is one of the really cool things about the game. And you also have to be strategic about when you pick up that orb, because since it's on a timer, you need to be able to maximize the damage output, so that way you can get past the wave and get past the level. It also, I think the game encourages you to use the BFG more, which I don't think was that often in Doom Eternal. Like you could use it, but this is like it's kind of built into the levels to like use strategically to use the BFG to get past like tons and tons of enemies, right? So is Doom 2016 better than Eternal? It's hard to say, really. I think Doom Eternal tried to make Doom a bit more competitive with more skill expression. But I think as like a core campaign package, Doom 2016 is a bit more beautiful. And I say that because like the visuals in this game and the lighting in this game are really, really incredible. Like this game actually looks haunting, and the sound can get so epic. I mean, you'll hear like choir-like vocals, and you'll hear different sorts of instruments to just make each set piece incredible. And the set pieces in this game are really amazing. Like the lighting, like when you're in some of these levels, it's like, it's haunting. It's like a nightmare. Like I think about some of the levels, and I look at some of the levels in this game, and I think this is like a dream world, but it's a nightmare dream world, and the way that they crafted it and the way that they made it feel, and how you switch between sort of the sterile sort of environment of like, these ships and things that you're in, and you switch between that and the hellish environments. It's just really, really cool. So I'm really, really impressed by the stages, the lighting, the design of the characters, and the mood, right? I think Hell Knight is a great example in this game. He looks more evil, more intimidating, more aggressive, and Doom Eternal, it still looks good, but the way the colors are more flat and more like sort of arcadish, it doesn't have that sort of haunting, ghostly, hellish feel in the same way that Doom 2016 is. So as of now, I might have to put Doom 2016 just ever so slightly over Doom Eternal, but that may change. So, everyone has their own opinions. A lot of people say Eternal is the best because that was the one they fell in love with. But I think Doom 2016 is definitely worth going back to and trying, right? Glory kills, right? They are a bit more repetitive compared to Doom Eternal because you in Doom Eternal, you have different animations for the different angles in which you perform the glory kills. Like if you're up above, if you're on the side, there's a little bit more variation, where there's way less variation in Doom 2016. But the glory kills still feel great. I never got tired of it, right? So it's just a little bit more repetitive than Doom Eternal. But sometimes you kind of like that you know what you can expect when you perform a glory kill on this type of enemy, and knowing what to expect when you do it, it feels really good. And also I think that when you can, perform the glory kills from further away, which is one of the abilities you can unlock through a rune in Doom 2016, I feel like it's more powerful than it is in Doom Eternal. Maybe it's not, maybe it's just my impressions of it, but utilizing that as a core movement mechanic in this game, because you have less movement options in Doom 2016, is really, really cool. Difficulty, like I said, I made this in another video. You should check that out on my channel. I think the difficulty in this game is a little bit more difficult in Doom 2016 because I think that there's cheaper ways to get killed in this game, and there's different variables of ways that you could take damage, and you can't see certain enemies sometimes, and they'll kill you off screen a lot more frequently, and the enemies do more damage and are more aggressive, and but they balance that out in this game by giving you more power-ups, and the BFG ammo is a lot more frequent, I think, once you unlock that gun. The boss fights, they're fun and they are challenging, but they're not overbearing, and they don't ask you to do like too much, so they're kind of relatively easy. I think the bosses in Doom Eternal were a lot more difficult from what I can recall, and but the bosses are still good, and there's only a few, right? You don't really get to your first boss till halfway through the game, which I thought was really interesting. But in a way, I kind of like that. Like, I would prefer to focus on just slaying the demons and fighting through waves and waves of enemies, and just the way that it's crafted and built, and the pacing and the platforming that you have in this game to keep it fresh is also really cool. So you have some platforming elements where you have to jump from here and jump from there, and it's like you're not overly powerful like you were in Doom Eternal with your movement and jump options. This game is like a lot more strict and a lot more old school in its movement, and a lot more weighty and clunky. But it still just works really well, and it breaks up the fights a little bit, and allows you time to think about how you conquered a level that you kept getting killed on, and how you were able to achieve it, and you kind of break that up with the story mode and the pacing and things like that, and the platforming. So I thought the platforming was a really nice touch. And overall, the game is great. The multiplayer, though, is something, it seems dead. I wasn't able to find a match. I'm sure if I really, probably joined the Discords and got with the hardcore players, I could probably find a private match. It wasn't great when I played it with the bots, but it just really made me think of how much we need, like, an Unreal Tournament, fast-paced, FPS, arena-style shooter. We really need that in the gaming industry right now, and I feel like when one company takes the leap and the risk to actually do that, it could be a huge success if they market it well and get the right development team behind it. And we really need an open world, fast-paced, not open world, but arena, fast-paced game like Unreal Tournament. Those games were classic and allow for a lot of skill expression. We need a new one. But overall, I think, 2016, Doom 2016 is definitely the game to play in 2025. There's not many games like it. Simple, pure, concentrated, demon slaying, heroic, power fantasy, perfection, right? This game is great. A little bit easier in some ways than Doom Eternal, but a lot harder in other ways than Doom Eternal.